Good morning, everyone. So welcome to our Saturday session and welcome back to my channel. I'm Rob McClendon. For those of you who are just coming across me for the first time, just please join in. We have a wonderful community of creators over here on YouTube. I love all you guys, and so I'm excited to get started. So I have another technique I'm going to show you today using the Arteza Micas. You know, we're working on our altered book, and I'll do a page flip to show you where I am right now. I've done several spreads, and I'm going to show you the way that I normally would work. And I guess when I made the decision last week not to necessarily do each video tape each session because I felt it was going to take too long, it freed me up in a way that I wasn't realizing, because generally when I work on a lot of different projects at the same time. So I don't necessarily just do something and finish it complete. Normally I'll finish my artwork to about 85–90%, and then I have a tendency just to let it sit. And then I'll come back to it and kind of finish things up, and I get more inspired. And that's generally how I work. So when I stopped to just start filling in the pages, I realized that I wasn't really showing you guys the way that I actually do work. And it may be a little freeing to some of you as well to not feel like you have to finish the whole collage in one session. Due to the fact that I'm taping these, you know, I didn't want to kind of give half a session or stop and you guys wondering, well, how did she finish it? So doing it this way, actually, I'll be able to show you more of my authentic rhythm to doing my work. So that was kind of a cool discovery for me, and I think you guys will enjoy me doing it this way as well, and I think you'll get more out of it. So also this week I was playing around with wanting to create some finishes that I wanted to use. I was inspired on one of the spreads because I wanted to make some finishes in papers to put in my spreads, because you guys know I love coffee and tea staining. And but I wanted to use my distress oxide because I love these distress oxides, and I use them, but I'm not using them as much as I could. Like for those of you who are over here on Patreon with me, or you in my studio school, you notice that I'm always pulling these out, but I'm usually pulling them out to stamp my you know, on my pages and things like that. But I wasn't using them to stain like I have in the past. So the other day I was working, I said, well, let me just pull my distress oxides out and do some staining. And then when I was in the process of staining, I don't know, I had this idea to throw some micas in because these things are so incredible. And then I sort of discovered another kind of technique using the micas, the Arteza Mica, and the Ranger, the Tim Holtz Distress Oxides, to create these stainings. So all of these pages were done with these two products. So I thought, wow, I think I'll share this with you guys, as most of you all who, if you're following me, you generally like organic stuff, old walls, old doors, you know, textured stuff, rust, coffee, tea staining, dyed things, you know, ripped and torn, you know, ancient beauties, wabi-sabi. All these things are probably why you are attracted to my aesthetic, and we're all over here creating together. So I thought you guys would really maybe like seeing how I made these papers. So that's what I'm going to do in this session, as well as I'll show you where I am in the journal so that you can catch up. And a few neat techniques, even down to, you know how we always have that jelly print that just doesn't pull well? And this actually was not even a print. It was what was a leftover of a ghost that was on my page, and I just happened to pull it. When I pulled it, I'm like, oh, it's kind of interesting, but what would you really do with this? Well, I'm going to show you how in the past I've used the oxides to make this into a usable print. And you know, we always have like a print that we'll pull, and it'll be like almost like 95% perfect, and it'll be that 5% where it's something missing, it's white paper showing through, and we're like, well, this technique will solve that problem for you. And I've done it a lot before using the daubers, the distressed daubers, you know. But we can also do the same thing with this technique. So before I get started, I'll show you, let me see. I'll show you these papers. I'm kind of all over the page. Let me just kind of show you where I am in the book so you guys can see that. And before, maybe I'll be able to get back to it in the end. So this is where, I think this is the last page we did together. Let me turn it this way so you can see it. So now I've done several of the page spreads that are all like 90, 85, 80, 90, 80% done. And I'm going to come back and I'll be adding like my stamps to them. I have some stamps that I've ordered off of eBay, some other stuff that I ordered from a European seller. So I'm waiting for those to come because I think they'll work wonderfully on these pages. So this is a page that is done, and some of it's prints from one of my other collages that I did. So this one is about 80%. I still have some chunks of stuff that I'm going to be doing here. And then this one I love. It's using some more vintage papers. I like the way this one came out. I sort of saved some spots for the stamps I'm going to put down. So I'd say this is probably about 95% done, this one, and this is probably 90% because I still have the stamps to put on here. And I think I may throw some paint over here as well, like I did there. But these are using some of my old documents, and my May printables will have old docs and doorways. I'm calling that one doorways and documents. And I'll put some of my new scripting in there too. I'll probably have a couple of background sort of image sort of things for those. But anyway, so this one still has some more to do, but this is generally how I would work. I would start filling my pages up with different collages, and then I'll stop, and then I'll come back to them. So this one is the same thing. I love it. I have several layers on down here. I have some paints going, some buildup. But I'd say 80% because I still have to get my mail art stamps down there. I still have, you know, things like that to put on. But like I said, I'm waiting for some stuff to come. So hopefully in the next couple of days, I'll be getting that. And then I'll go back through these pages and finish them up. So this is generally the way I kind of move through my books. Like I'll get pieces that to me like, oh, this is, I can see this as a page element. So like for instance, the next one that I'm going to do, I have it sitting right over here. So I'll be using this print when we did using, this one was using the Arteza Iridescent. And this was just an off pull. This wasn't even like, you know, a really good pull. It was just I was cleaning the plate. But I love it against this ephemera that I blew up, enhanced, and then printed out. So I could see those going together. So actually this will be the next page spread. So, you know, I kind of, when I see things that work together, then I kind of just start moving through and doing my pages. And then I'll come back and keep on adding to them versus doing it from start to finish completely done like I had been doing. So this is just another way of working, and maybe this approach works best for some, and you guys can continue doing it this way, but maybe me showing you my more natural way of working might be a aha moment for some others, you know, like, oh my goodness, okay, I could see doing it like that. That's a little bit more liberating because now I can see where I can come back and kind of keep on working on it. So, you know, the choice is yours. I'm using the Artesia Gouache. They have these metallic gouaches that are just yummy. That paint is that. So there's some overpainting that, so they're still building up and stuff I'm going to do on these. So that's where I am right now. And depending on where we are in this video, my goal is to try to lay this down so you can see, excuse me, that stage of me putting this down. But we'll get back to that. But let's have some fun. So let me show you what I've done before we get going. And I have a concept at work here that I want to share with you because it's the way I see staining and it's the way I see aging. And it's just my conversation into sort of the faux aging and you know, where, you know, people take tags and they kind of, you know, age them. I'll show you how I do them. And it's kind of like a part of this process. So we'll talk, and we'll also talk about color. That's the other thing I'd like to talk about, is the way my eye sees color and sees sort of antiquing, and maybe that might be a little helpful to some. Okay, so these are just yummy. I'll show you the papers. When I actually start working, I'll show you the papers that I'm using. But I'm going to put this up close so not only you can see the staining, but you'll be able to appreciate the micas in here. You see the mica in here? I mean, it's just, this one you'll probably be able to see a little better. The way it pulls, come on, you can see that clump there, but of course the light is, it's hard to see. I know, see, oh, look at that, see that? So this is using, so throughout this staining, there'll be bits and pieces of this beautiful antiquing with this mica. Oh, see that right there? It just reminds me of Venice. This technique, I'm telling you, it's like old world. It's like staining, but it's that little bit of glitz, like old gold that's gotten old and patinaed. I love this. So we'll go over the colors I've used in here, but like on this one, I've used Vintage Photo, Pumice Stone, and Black Soot, actually, with the gold mica. So I'll be going over these with you guys. I'll just show them to you right now so you can see them so we can get started. So these are some staining just a little bit of gold in here. This is Vintage Photo. Well, there's a combination of these. All these are in here. So this is Pumice and Vintage Photo. And some of these I did the back of them because I'm making these as some cards for the journal, and I want to be able to the fronts and backs. Some of the pages in some of those books I've been making. So these are all yummy. Just kind of showing you guys real quick. Look at that. So again, this is Pumice and Vintage Photo and frayed burlap. That's the other one I want to show you, the frayed burlap. Okay, same thing. And these are those same, well, this has some metallic on it. This has the green. A few of them I did where there wasn't any of the metallic. But these are all like, that's all pumice. Yummy, with some mica in it. So, and I think they have a really nice organic look without looking too, you know, I don't know. They look like they could be a little bit more like coffee or tea staining type of things to them. So we'll get started. Because I know you guys are like, okay, well, how are you doing those? So let me just talk through my process, because I'm going to redo all of these pages right here for you so you can see. Now this would be, we'll just start off with, so this is, let me just make sure I have these in order. Okay, so this is Vintage Photo. So this is just Vintage Photo with nothing in it. No, I don't think I have any mica in here. Just Vintage Photo. And whether or not it has the gold in it doesn't matter, so I'll show you the gold. But this is what a lot of people use to get the age, the antique look, right? You see a lot of junk journalers and what have you just using Vintage Photo, or they'll use walnut stain. And this is the kind of color that it gives. And to my eye, this is just me, I'm just adding to the conversation. There's no rights, no wrongs. A lot of people, I mean, I love so many of the junk journals out there. I can't even begin to name them. I think it's a fabulous community, and I just like just hanging out and listening and seeing what people are doing, even if it's not my style. I really don't care about that. I just like the enthusiasm for art journaling and for junk journaling and all the techniques people share. So I'm always wanting to add to the party, never take away. So for me, Vintage Photo is just still a little too yellow orangey to necessarily just look just antique to my eye. So this right here is frayed burlap. Now, if we see the difference, you can see where it just grayed down a little bit. And to me, I have a tendency to reach, if I'm going to reach for one color, I'm going to reach for frayed burlap before I reach for vintage photo. Because to me, this looks more like an aged page. The combination of the color in there, when you put water on it, the colors in frayed burlap start to separate more. So you get more gradient and more than you do with vintage photo. You see the difference? And you just get this little slightly grayed tone. So when you think about as things age, they age all kinds of ways. And in and then depending on the part of the world you're in, things age differently because climates are different, soils are different, dust is different because dust is a product of the soil floating in the air. So I know you guys know I love traveling around the world. I'm a big flea market person. I've probably been into most of the major flea markets around the world. And I've noticed that the color of old is different depending on what part of the world you're in. You know, like the documents and everything look different. Like here in the States, we get more to me, more of a grayed sort of brownie thing. But like, let's say in France, things are more like a gray, bluey, browny kind of color. You know what I'm saying? So it's okay to kind of look at vintage. Let your eye pull out what looks vintage to you is the point. You know, like you look at it, and if something looks more vintagey with a little bit more blue or a little more gray or a little bit more whatever in it, green, go for it. And then this is a combination of vintage photo and pumice, which gets you more to like frayed burlap. So I think when Tim Holtz makes frayed burlap, he's doing a combination of like a pumice and a vintage photo. So in one thing you could get this, but these are the combinations together, which I loved. I love the way they pulled. And then this right here is just pumice, with just a little bit of frayed burlap was on the mat that I was using. But you see how beautiful this pumice is? It's like it's weathered, but like a gray, beachy, I don't know, you know, it's a different kind of weather. So we can weather and make our stuff look old just with pumice stone. Okay, so we can go different ways with it, but the combination of pumice and vintage photo is really beautiful. And then this is me doing it on onion skin, so I got a lot more of the spotting, which I love. And then it's me coming back on top with a little bit of, see this, that spotting, that's pumice stone. And you know when you get old documents and sometimes it's kind of like had mold on it or whatever, you know, different, you'll see that kind of like graying on top of the brown staining. So to me, that technique for me is done with pumice. And this looks like this could have been coffee or tea stain, right? I mean, this looks like it could have just been coffee or tea stain, but yet I did it with the ink. So let's get started. I wanted to kind of show you because that's the direction we're going to go. So what I like to do is I've got my, I like using this Arteza, well, you know, you can use any palette. I use this disposable palette because it allows me to keep the, I just kind of hold on to when I'm using these, and you can literally reactivate them because there's still so much ink and mica on here that reactivates. But I'll start with a clean one so that, you know, you guys get the benefit of starting new. But I like the palettes because a lot of times I see people like wiping the glass off because they're putting it on glass and then they wipe it up when they want to change colors. But the problem with that is you've just gotten rid of a lot of good product. So I do it on these palettes, and then that way I get to keep my stuff. Alrighty, so let's start off just what I did. Let's go with vintage photo. And also what you want to do is you want to, where's my, yeah, I have to have my heat gun because I'll be running the heat gun off and on, because the heat gun is good because you want to dry things down. A part of how I get this texture on texture is that I'm getting this watery surface first, and then I dry that. Then I come back and get some more of the darker color, dry that. Then I come back and put this on top and dry it. So you want to kind of dry and sort of bake that in, because otherwise it doesn't, if you try to do it all wet, all it's going to do is just keep on mixing in. Alrighty. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to use some cardstock. I'm going to use a combination of a few things. I'm using cardstock. I'm using some of this layout bond, which is just like, sort of like a tracing paper, not a vellum, but a tracing paper. So this is layout bond, Strathmore. And then I'm going to use some onion skin. I'll do that onion skin technique so you guys can see it. So let's just start with the cardstock. So I put some vintage photo down, and then we're just going to spray it. Now, one of the things that I like to, and I'm going to go ahead and start working with our micas. Why not? So I'll put a little bit of gold in here. Oops, get that started on the palette. Because, you know, just to condense this tutorial, you'll be able to do it at home with just, without the mica and with the mica, so you can see the difference. But I'm going to show you with it, because why not? Okay. So let's get a little bit more down here, because this first layer I kind of want. So what I do is I just take my brush and just mix the mica in with it. And then let's get this a little bit more watery. And so what I do is I just kind of take and I just sort of drag the page through it a bit. So I kind of start getting a little bit more, you know, this sort of staining like that. And I try to get it sort of all over the way you would do it if you were doing, you know, tea staining. So something like that is good. Let's just go ahead and pardon the noise. This just dries it down really quickly. And right there, you just have a really pretty, I mean, just alone, this is just a pretty, your paper will curl a little bit. If you do both sides, it has a tendency to uncurl it, like if you put moisture on both sides. But I also just take and use an iron and just flatten it out, so you can see. And look at that gold in there. I mean, just look at it. It's gorgeous. See? It's just all, it's almost like marbling or something too. It's real pretty. So that would be vintage photo. Now let's just do, so we'll do frayed burlap. I'll do it down here so I can try not to get too much of the vintage photo. So you can see the immediate difference between the two, vintage photo and frayed burlap. I don't want a lot. I'm not putting a lot actually of this gold down there, believe it or not. Just a little bit. Okay, a bit more. Just kind of mix it. Okay, so I'll get another card here. Grab this. This whole process couldn't be easier. And you could use these for journaling cards, using it on like onion skin or like that bond or even a tracing vellum. I mean, all this, because these are inks, so all of this sticks, you know, nicely. Okay, that's good. Will work for using inside of our books as collage, you know, as collage elements, other papers to add with our jelly prints. And so this is frayed burlap with just a little bit of gold in it and the whole. Okay, so you can see the difference. See how it's just a little bit more grayed out. It's not as, it's lighter, you know, the way I'm doing it here. And it's not quite as yellow. It's a little more gray in it. Okay, so let's get pumice stone, which I love. You guys can see that. And I'm going to put a little bit of this is laurel green. Oh my God, it's a pretty color. In this pumice, it's really pretty. So just a little bit of that. Because it's a greeny, kind of an emeraldy. Well, no, it's deep. I guess it's like laurel green. Okay, so now when I do this one, we're going to get a little bit more because I'm kind of getting close to that brown. So we'll start picking up some of the brown, which is okay because you'll still be able to appreciate what the pumice looks like. Oh, I love this pumice. I mean, it's just so subtle. Okay, let's stop it there. I love it. That's a good pattern. And you kind of stop when you get a pattern that you like too. You know, like a sort of staining that you like, then, you know, you stop there. It's so much fun. So many of you guys got these micas too and started using them. I've seen them in your work. Some of posted them in some of the groups that we're in. And I noticed a lot of you got them. And these are well worth it. And I've just looking at using them all different kinds of ways. So I thought, since so many of you had gotten them, and most people have the Tim Holtz, or if not, you can just run out to Michael's. They always have them 40% off or something. If you just get one of them or whatever. That is lovely. See that? And now that's the pumice, but you can see a little bit of that laurel mica in it. Let me try to get the right angle for you guys. Come on, let's get the right angle. Okay, see it? Okay, now let's get it to focus. Look at that, yummy. Ugh. So just to have that little puddle of mica, and then you can see how it just moves all around your print, along with this, is just, it's the best. So now what we're going to do is, I have a little sneeze coming on. Okay, so I think I'm okay. So what I'm going to do is I have a few things here. Let's go ahead and activate this. I'm going to put a little forest moss in here. I love the forest moss too. So we put a little bit of that in there. Let's pick that up. So you can see how already we've kind of done, you see the variations of going into the grays. And to me, this is just as beautiful as an antique sort of look with a little bit of the vintage photo in there. So this pumice and vintage photo, I think, work well together to kind of create that sort of aging and coffee or tea stained, you know, sort of look, whatever we're kind of going for. So let's pick some of this up. That's nice. So where's my... So we'll pick that up. And then I'll show you, I'll come back over this with some pumice. You see the mica in here is really pretty. So this sort of gives a greeny, browny kind of stained color, you know? So it's just kind of another sort of way to pick up and kind of create sort of an aging. But this is more on the sort of greeny brown side, if you can see the difference. So let's come back with some, in fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to have a paper that I'm going to, this is going to be the bond. So I'm going to start working on this bond. I'm just going to use the bond, just kind of sop up a lot of this. you know, you just kind of liquefy it a little bit more and pick stuff up. So just kind of work through like I would if I were just working off camera. So just go ahead. See, that's just, I misted it down some more, so I got more of a wash that I can come back and work on top of. Put that over there and let it dry. And so now let's, I think what I'm going to do is, let me just use another card. I just want to get a little bit more of this up. So I clean my plate by using, you know, I clean the palette by using cardstock. The same thing that I'm going to be using to make a journal cards out of or whatever. And, you know, that's just a beginning base. When I want to change my color, I don't like do the thing and wipe it up and then, you know, throw it away. So let's go to pumice. And then let's get some of that pumice over top of the forest moss. And you'll see how we can start knocking this back and even gray this color down more. Oh, so pretty. And I literally just kind of clean my plate up. Let's dry that. Hope I got enough on camera, guys. I'm sorry if I'm a little off camera here. Just trying to get a lot of workspace in here. A lot into this small workspace that I have. That's in the, you know, that's in my camera shot. Okay, now look at this. So see that pumice? Now over top of that forest green, you see how it just puts a just really subtle wash layer on it that is just gorgeous. So even if you have a strong color, you can just knock it back by just continuing to layer. And then what I can do is I'm going to show you black soot, what I do with this one. So we can take some of this and I'm just going to put a little bit of the gold. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit, but I'm not going to, let's see how I'm going to do it. I don't want a lot because it'll kind of start picking up in bits and pieces versus being mixed all through it. So you can see it's just a little bit down there. You can see how little is on there. Okay. So then what I like to do is now I'm going to my third layer, right? So I've gotten that first green, that mossy green was down there. It's called forest moss. Then the pumice is over top of it, which is really kind of just anchored and just dulled the color out. So now let's do some black soot, which is one of my favorite colors. And what I like to do is just get enough that I'm starting getting, see that, get that beading up. That's what I'm going for. And then what I'm going to do is just take and put a bit in there like that. Just in a few places. And I like to just try to get those lines where it's just, it's beaded up. So I start getting those little fine dots on there. So let's go ahead and dry it so you can see. Because when you do it like that, then you pick up those little individual texture dots. And it makes for a nice texture. This black soot is really nice because it almost kind of has like a green. It's like the black was made with a lot of green. And the more that you let your heat gun really bake, you know, dry it down, the more it just kind of bakes that color in. So the more you let it dry down, the more it just bakes the color in. I don't know if you could hear me because I'm running the heat gun at the same time I'm talking. Okay, see this? So let's get close to it. Let's look up this right up here. See? All that little subtle spotting down here. So that looks yummy. Okay, so let's do, so on this one, let's pick some of this up. See? Just kind of tap it because we just want to get, we're just trying to get that sort of texture. Sort of those little bubbles. How far along are we? 35 minutes. So I'll show you also how so we'll go and do the onion skin the way I did it. And that just, I mean, it's just yummy. And you can see all the texture. The micas in there are just so subtle. But that's just good stuff. So this is really, makes some really nice backgrounds. Okay. So I want to, I'll come back to those. Let's go ahead and do the, you just get this, I'll activate this and get the rest of this up. Okay. Okay. Alrighty. And so this will do good with, I'll show you, this will be, we'll do this one first with the vintage photo. Because this has a lot of light coloring on it between the forest moss and the pumice and some of that black soot now. So since I'm getting ready to change my palette, I'm going to go back to the vintage photo. Okay. And we can do the same thing with it. Just mist it just a little bit because we want those spots like that. And then just take, you know, a corner here than there. See that? Oh, yummy. Just kind of picking up these little bits sort of all around. Kind of mix it in over there. So I'm picking up some more of the water with it. So now I'm going to bake this in. And then the rest of it I'm going to smear on here to fill in all the white places. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is finish misting it, and then you can get a nice overall coat by just wiping it through the whole thing. So what we're going to do now is, because now we've got all that nice definition, see? But we have like a lot of little white spots and stuff. So what I like to do is then I'll just blend the color by just kind of bringing it all in like that. And it'll just kind of, it'll, you know, make the color gradation more harmonious. So it won't just look so patchy. But because we dried it, and these are inks, we don't have to worry about it moving around on us. See how it just kind of knocks everything back a bit? And you can just keep on, as long as you keep on doing layers, you can just keep on building up. Nothing to say that we have to stop. So I'm going to finish this with a little bit of pumice. See, I can't stop. Because when I'm on to something, you know, it's like you have in your mind's eye this texture. So I'm going to use the pumice again. I think pumice stone is like one of my fundamental base colors. It's just something about it that really just, because it's kind of like a taupey gray. You don't know if it's taupe or gray, depending on which palette you put it with. So I think it really works so nicely. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of blending all of this in now. So we really just have a beautiful background. Since my May kit is going to be creating some I'm creating, there's a lot of images on there, but I was also kind of creating stained papers and stuff that would be backgrounds for you guys that you can use as fundamental backgrounds, even like in our altered book, and then you're able to build up on it. That was one of the things that people were asking me for. So I'll include some of these in there. Like this one would be a perfect one. Oh, this is gorgeous. And you see, I haven't put any more mica on there because if you see these close up, when you don't have to put them on every time because so much of it sort of hangs on your palette, and it just is subtle. See, you can see it there, but now see how that pumice just knocked a lot of that vintage photo back and made a really beautiful. And we could keep on building up, but let me get on to, I want to show you how I did the this one, the onion skins. You can do this on onion skin, jelly paper, on deli paper. You can do it on tracing paper. So basically what I did is I started off with, and then I still want to show you how to make this print. So that's the last thing I'll show. So kind of get a lot in. Okay, so let's start off with vintage photo. And I'm going to throw just a little bit of gold on here now on the palette because I've kind of cleaned it off pretty well there. And I'm not putting a lot. You can see it's just these little bits dropping. Okay, so let's go ahead and want to get a good misting on there. And then I just kind of start putting this down like that. Okay, so let's get this, and then we'll go ahead and dry it. So I'm just kind of getting a good overall background so the paper's not so white. So this kind of looks, when you really water down vintage photo, you get sort of a tea stain look. So you can sort of see, oh, it's really pretty. It really just, you could just stop here and you would just have a really pretty tea stain background. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do, this is vintage photo, yeah. So I'm just going to do this, the same thing. So now we can pick up these strong dots. That's what I want to do next. See, so we start getting that kind of thing. Oh, love it. So what I like to do when I kind of get a nice overall pattern like that I like, then I stop and I dry it. because I really want to lock that color in. Each layer locks color in, and that's how you get a nice buildup. Oh, this looks so good. So the trick is, you know me, if you know my techniques, one of the top 3 things in my rule book with jelly printing or whatever I do, collaging, is layers. Allow yourself to layer. Let things dry between, come back, and see. That's just gorgeous. So we're going to put down some let's put down some gathered twigs. I do have gathered twigs over here too, which is a different brown. It's a little, I don't know how to describe it, what makes it different, but it is a different kind of brown. So let's just put some of this on there. See, it's like, maybe it's a little greener. I don't know. Yeah, I'd say that it's a brown with maybe more green in it, the gathered twigs. That's maybe why it's called gathered twigs. More branchy kind of green. And these actually are easy to make. Well, you can see they're easy, but they go quickly. You sit down and do a session, you get quite a bit of these pages. Oh, this is gorgeous. That's what I do like about Tim Holtz. Like the browns, like you could get so many different. Now you can distinctive, you know, you can see the distinction between this brown, which is vintage photo, and this brown, which is the gathered twigs. So layering these, and then underneath we can see the washed out vintage photo. Layering these is just, and then you can see the gold laying underneath there. Let's see. See that? Oh, I love this. Okay, so then what we're going to do is finish it up with pumice. So the same way we did it before, just get some pumice down there. We're going to spritz it just a little bit because we want those bubbles to form. So just kind of want to then just kind of put it on top. Just some places where we just kind of, so we get that old gray kind of staining right on top, you know. It's very subtle. When you look at this sheet, you can really see it. Okay, let's dry that. And I'll show you guys. So you can do this on anything, of course, cardstock, your any kind of layout paper, or even that calligraphy, the Chinese calligraphy paper that we use. You can use that. Onion skin if you have it. I know it's not always easy to find or get. And onion skin, cardstock, deli paper, tracing paper. Okay, so now we can see that gray laying on top? It was that little bit of gold, the gray, the gathered twigs, the vintage photo. To me, that's just kind of the complexity of how old something old would look, right? Alrighty. So we'll put that over here. This is the one. So you can see just the variation in the way It does, but this is the same color palette that I did before. Now, a couple more things. Same thing with the tags. If you want to do tags, just do this. Just have a nice palette there. You know, take your dauber, whichever one you use. And I kind of I like to kind of have it wet so that it kind of looks like it integrates a little bit more than, so if I'm going to do tags, I normally do my tags before I work anything on them, because I like them to just kind of sit and they'll dry down beautifully. And then you can just take a little bit of vintage photo right out of, but you know, water it down some, and then just kind of, you can take the darker color and just kind of graze the edges like that. So just showing you how, like, I'm going to use the staining to kind of give an aged look to my papers. This is kind of how I do it. I like to add the water to it. To me, it just, I don't do a lot of this, but I do some of it, especially when I'm doing old letters, or, you know, I'm doing tags like this. I'll just sit down and do a group of them so that they're done. And then I'll go ahead and collage or do whatever I'm going to do on top of them. So I just wanted to show you, because I don't think I've ever showed you guys how I do. If I do this kind of staining, this is how I do it. I just like to do it with a little bit of water. Not a lot, but just enough that, you know, you can see where it just, the water I think helps to, I'm trying to show you guys. See, it just blends in, and when it's dry, you just get more of that, like it was aged look, I think. See, this one's dried. So you just get all those subtle gradations in it. And then you just can make a stack of these, and you can have them off to the side, ready to go, using as a base. You know. Alrighty, so I wanted to show you, because I do tags, so maybe you might have the idea, well, how would you do a tag with this technique? That's how I do it. And then the last thing I want to show you guys is how we can actually do a mixture here. So I'm going to take this print. So we have this, you know, we have the gold. This, I think, is the Arteza. Make myself a little more room here. This is the Arteza Aztec Gold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some frayed burlap. I'm going to get a few colors going here. Some frayed burlap. And that wasn't frayed burlap. That was gathered twigs. And I'm going to put some pumice down. Because I'm going to mix this. I'm going to make a palette mixture. And I'm going to put some of this mica down. It's the this one. This color again is laurel green. Put a little chunk of it down. Not a whole lot still, but I got a big piece to cover, and I want that to really have. Oh, this pink is pretty too. I'm gonna put this down as well. This pink is rose gold. This really looks good mixed in with these colors as well that we've been working with. So we'll put a little bit of this in the mixture. Add this to the soup. And when these dry, you really do see the colors. Okay. So I want to, my brush. Let me go ahead and spray this down and see what we have. I still have stuff on this plate, as we know. So let's just start mixing this all up. Okay, so we've got a nice concoction there. You can even use your paintbrush and paint it on, because either way is fine. So I'll show you this close up so you can sort of see what this paper looks like. So I'll work on that section first. It's just Aztec gold, which one? Right there. With, you know, on white copier paper. This is copy paper. Nothing special. But quickly we can take and transform this whole print into something that is going to be to die for. I'm telling you guys. Hang out with me. You know I love backgrounds. Already you can see. So I'm gonna put a little bit more mixture here because I'm gonna show you the whole. I'm gonna do the whole sheet so you really can get. I'll put some frayed burlap down, and I'm gonna put a little bit of this gathered twigs again. Okay, let's go ahead and make this mixture again. Believe it or not, we'll still have plenty of mica in here to move around. You can take this all the way off to the edge of your print. That way you get, you can use this whole thing, even though it looks like it was not very much of it that was going to be usable after this. The whole thing will be. Like you could literally turn this into a page spread if you wanted to, like in your journal, because all of it will just be gorgeous. I started doing this quite a long time ago with like jelly prints that I really liked, but that were like, you know, had spots that were missing, and I was using the daubers. He stopped making the pumice and the daubers. I loved the pumice and the daubers. We can do one more time so we can get that little section over there. Give me some gathered twigs again. And a little pumice. I'm going to put a little bit of ice spruce in here too. All these colors mix nice together. It's kind of like, it's a really neat green, this ice spruce. Let's go ahead and mix this together. Like I said, you can literally go in with the brush and paint it as well. If you don't have a dauber, you don't have to use that. You can just use a nice fluffy paintbrush. Or, you know what also I like using are the, just go to the dollar store and get a bunch of those makeup sponges for $1. They work beautifully. They work just as well as the daubers in my opinion. So don't feel like, you know, if you can't get this Tim Holtz thing, this whole thing would be like $8, $9. You can just go to the dollar store and get some cosmetic sponges, or to your pharmacy, wherever you can get them from. Oh, this is gorgeous. So I'm going to show you this up close. And the nice thing about these inks is that they drop down behind your jelly print. So when it dries, it makes the print pop even more. So, see this? And when this thing dries, it's just going to be, let me just move this over some, so you guys can really see it, the whole thing. But see how the whole thing came together? So like even all these ends that have paint on it and stuff like that, we can use all of that beautiful variation, see? And now this whole little thing that would have been a throwaway is just good and yummy now. And see if I can dry it up a little bit real quick, because the more, once it's dry, oh. Going to take a while for it to dry up more, but you can start even seeing where, if I can get it close enough, so you can see where the paint will lay higher on the print than the ink. You see? So you can start seeing these variations of levels. See that? And the more it dries, that paint, see how it's dropping down behind and the paint is laying on top? So don't ever throw away any paint on a paper again. Just use your distressed oxides, a little bit of the mica powders, because you're getting this beautiful mica film. I mean, all of it's popping so nicely. And that was off of a throwaway print. So there we are. This is what we've done today. And with the distressed oxide. So I hope that, oh, we're at an hour, so forget it. I can't do the other thing. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope that was helpful for making textures. I know sometimes, you know, getting out and coffee and tea staining is not always necessarily convenient for people. A lot of times you only want to do a little bit of something really quick that then we can take and tear bits of this and put it back in to, you know, on our pages that we're working on. So I mean, literally, I could actually make this a full page. I could glue that down as a full page and we're ready to rock and roll and build up on that, or, you know, tear sections of it and put it various places. So anyway, there we have it. As always, thank you guys for hanging out. Always enjoy your comments and your questions. Happy to answer them whenever, you know, as always. And I think that's everything for right now. If you enjoyed this, please thumb it up. And if this is your first time here, please subscribe and join our tribe of incredible creators and, you know, hang out with us. So until next week, guys, happy journaling and our altered books. Pull out all these goodies that you have and just have at it. All right. Love you guys. Take care. Have a wonderful weekend and stay safe. Bye-bye.